Hello and welcome to the Education Founder Series, Mr. Nitish Jain. Mr. Jain is the president of SP Jain School of Global Management, one of the leading business schools in the country. Without further ado, I'd start off with my first question, sir. How would you describe the current status of higher education in India? What are its biggest strengths and weaknesses?
Hi, Shivani. Good to be talking to you today. So you asked me the question on the education sector in India. And I think the biggest strength of India is simply its people, the number of graduates. If you just look at the number of Indian students studying outside India, that means studying abroad, it is very soon going to even overtake China. And so there is a huge number of students who are very keen on high quality education. And if I can talk about the weakness, given the demographics of India, I think the government focuses more on low cost education. And I guess that it may be the right thing to do. I'm nobody to judge it. But as a result, quality suffers because you do need to pay your faculty better. You do need research facilities. Your classrooms need to be upgraded and modernized. All of this costs money. And if universities can't charge an appropriate fee, then obviously it's going to impact the quality. But then, in India, there are many decisions that need to be taken by the government based on the broader requirements of the population and may not just be the people who could afford. I think those are the strengths and weaknesses.
Since we are talking about the quality of education that we attain, I would like to ask you, sir, how does SP Jain Global ensure the best practice in the industry at the moment?
See, for many years, Shivani, we have built a reputation as being a high quality provider. And this has been borne out by the rankings we get by all the top publications in the world, from the US, from the UK. And these are really the most coveted. And that's because of the high quality of education we give to our students. How do we give higher quality education? Well, I'll give you a short answer. Actually, it's not that easy to encapsulate the answer in just one or two sentences because there are no shortcuts. I mean, that's the bottom line. There are no shortcuts. And so what we do is we actually meet companies, understand their skill shortage, their requirements, and we go do this in great detail. And we would then tailor the program so that our graduates would be so skilled that meet with the requirements of these companies, which means the curriculum, it means the faculty you can teach, it means additional workshops, maybe if it's not already covered in the curriculum. It means strong preparation for top jobs. And finally, we look at the outcomes. Where have they actually got these jobs? What sort of positions have they got? And then 5 years later, have they actually moved up in their careers? So it's a whole circle that becomes very important when we look at high quality. And in between, it's technology, it's the facilities, the infrastructure, its laboratories, and so on and so forth.
Sir, I would also like to know, how has the virtual shift in the education sector unfolded for you? And what are some of the innovative and new age measures taken by the institution to ensure that it continues to impart education in the times of a pandemic?
Yeah. So, COVID hit very suddenly, and most universities were caught unaware, and therefore they just needed to adapt on the fly, so to speak. They couldn't create some new technology. Fortunately for SP Jain, we started thinking of online technology in 2018. And we had a full 2 years for us to develop our own proprietary technology that is far more effective. So let me share with you that the technology used by most other universities, which are the conventional ones like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or Google, and stuff like that, they were designed for office meetings. They weren't designed for classroom use. But because there was no other technology, so everyone just switched to what they had. And they made the best of what they could do. But SP Jain's ELO, which stands for Engaged Learning Online, has been developed for students. It's customized for students. So even if you have 60 students in one classroom, the professor and the student can make eye contact with each other, which you can't do even on Zoom. They can, there are many other very, very sophisticated and high-tech features that makes the learning for the student so much more effective. So sometimes our students, for reasons, some faculties teach on Zoom and others teach on ELO, but they just refuse now to study on Zoom. They're saying that please only give us ELO because the learning is so much better. In fact, I may dare say, Shivani, that it is even better than a real classroom experience. When you look at the learning, only if you look at the learning. Of course, when you go to a physical campus, you have a lot of fun outside the classroom, right? You sit with your friends in the cafeteria and you go out and you have lots of fun on the campus. That you can't do online. You have to have fun with your siblings or your brother, your parents or someone. And honestly, that's no fun, right? So that is unfortunately the hardship they get. But when you just look at the pure learning, ELO can deliver a superior learning experience, and we can prove it because we can actually see what students are writing in their exam papers, and we can actually see how solid the learning is compared to even real classrooms. And if you go to a real classroom, no one is telling you you've got to pay attention, right? We've all been students. You are sitting in the classroom, you're smiling when you're supposed to smile, you're nodding when you're supposed to nod, but you're not really paying attention. So just because you're in a real classroom does not mean that you are taking everything that the professor has spoken.
Also, sir, what are your plans for progression with regard to your EdTech platform ELO, this one that we have been talking about?
So, yes, it's a very good question. And thank you for asking that question. We are currently on what we call version 5. That means there have already been 4 other versions that were launched previously, because naturally we have kept on upgrading the software when we get feedback from students, when we get feedback from faculty. And so the technology has kept on being upgraded. And version 5, which will be launched in maybe 1 or 2 weeks from now, will be a very latest technology. And I'll give you one example. Our ELO, because it's so high technology, needs high bandwidth from a student's perspective. But some of our students are based in such places where they don't have access to high bandwidth, and then they begin to lose out. So the new version 5 will even cater to low bandwidth users. It's just that it won't look as sharp as high definition, which anyone with high bandwidth has, but you can still have the full experience. And so I think that was one that was born out of feedback that we got from students, that can you help us because we are losing out on account of the bandwidth issue. And it's a common issue across the world, really, because we have a lot of students that come from many different countries, not just India. We have students who have bandwidth issues in their home country. Now, this can address that concern. And there are many, many, many more features. I just spoke about one, which is quite easy for all of us to understand.
Has the placement process of the graduating batches been affected due to the the pandemic, as it has resulted in major setbacks in the economy?
So I like to explain this with a parallel, let's say. So, I mean, we've all sat in cars and, there is a red light. Then you have to stop at the red light. But after the red light comes a green light. And when there is the green light, the cars actually accelerate very fast to catch up. They just move quicker. So last year was that red light. COVID, unfortunately, came so suddenly, nobody could prepare for it. And the entire economy had to be stalled because of, because of safety concerns. But this year is green light because there's a lot of pent up demand. People just want to catch up on lost time. It could mean going outside, for a vacation. It can be for, buying things that you had not been able to buy from a shop, and so on and so forth. So this year we can see a huge uptick in recruitment. The IT companies are doing extraordinarily well. There have been so many new startups, and they're recruiting, like crazy. We've seen how the stock markets have moved. And so there is a lot of requirement from wealth managers because their business has just gone through the roof, and so on and so forth. I can give a number of examples. So this year we can see that employment has really picked up very handsomely. It's led to higher salaries. We can see on an average at least 20%, in some sectors even 25%, like the IT sector, for example. And there is a very brisk recruitment going on right now. So it's just the green light after the red light.
Also, sir, what differentiates SP Jain's Tri-City program from other schools operating in the global management sector?
Again, a very good question, Shivani, and thank you. It's, other schools have set up these global campuses largely to attract local students. SP Jain has set up global campuses to give students a global experience. And what I mean by that, a global learning experience. And we do this very successfully through our out-of-class learning that we offer to our students. So students have a number of out-of-class activities which then get integrated in the classroom, and hence they become equipped for becoming a global manager. And what that means is, can they work in global teams? Can they understand the risk of going to a new country? How do you analyze that risk when you go to another country? Because in the past, there have been a lot of examples of the very big famous companies. When they've gone outside their home country, they have lost a lot of money because they haven't understood that the country is different. Let me explain it a bit further. How you do business in India can be very different than how you do business in China, or how you do business in the UK or the US. They're all different. And so if you haven't understood that properly, it is quite likely that you may make a mistake. And this mistake can be very costly. This is what differentiates SP Jain's global learning from other universities.
So going forward, what are the immediate goals that you wish to achieve for the institute?
We don't have any big, grand goals because we think of incremental improvement, but every year. So, it is just how do we do everything that we already have been doing, but do it better. And so it again means how do we refine the curriculum even better? How can we get even more superior faculty, and especially ones who can deliver practical knowledge to our students? How can we create even more workshops that give our students hands-on practical learning? How can we get such guest speakers that our students have found the most impactful in previous cohorts? And of course, last but not least, how does it all impact jobs? We always say right from day one and continue to the end, it's not about getting a job. Every SP Jain student is very likely to get a job, but it's about those value added jobs. It's about the top jobs in top companies. And these are very competitive. You are competing with the top business schools. You're competing with even people who have not studied in a business school, but who have the right skills. So you've really got to be the best, because these companies and these jobs get a lot of applicants. And in some cases, they need to pass 10 interviews to be selected. So, how do we get our students to be ready to be able to get through all 10 interviews and then come out, the winner at the end? And we've got lots of examples of such students who have managed to land themselves these very prestigious jobs. But it's not easy. And so, because of that, we try harder. If it was easy, we would not need to try so hard. But because it is difficult, and that's what makes it even more appealing to us. And I can't resist by sharing a quotation of the US President John F. Kennedy. And what he said is, we chose to go to the moon, not because it was easy, but because it was hard. And I think that's what drives us every day. It's not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And getting students those very top jobs is hard.
Well, it was wonderful having you here, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights with us and joining us on the Education Founder series. Thank you.
Entirely my pleasure, Shivani. Thank you.